Welcome to SQL Handbook. My name is Shashain, and in this video we're going to talk about what is the group by clause in SQL. Okay, so the group by clause, to put it simply, is a tool that we can use to group values together in a column or a set of columns and then apply aggregations on other columns in that table. Now in this video I'm going to go through some examples later on, and in those examples you can see how the group by works and what I mean by applying aggregations on other columns. So for now that's just the textbook answer. We'll just continue further. Next thing is, I spoke about aggregations. So what is an aggregate function? Aggregate functions and group by clause, by the way, they go hand in hand, so it's very important that we also know what this is. So an aggregate function is a function that performs a calculation on a set of values and returns a single value. Okay, so for example, there's a few different types of aggregate functions. We have sum, count, average, min, max. Now these type of aggregate functions each apply a different calculation on the column. So for example, sum, as the name suggests, adds up all the values in the column. Count will just count all the rows. Average will find the average value within that column. Min is the lowest value and max is the largest value in that column. So these calculations are what we call aggregate functions. Now we can apply these calculations based on grouping, which is done by the group by clause. Okay, so that's how they go hand in hand. Now I will first introduce the aggregate functions in action. So basically there's a little task over here I have, which is find the total amount of payments. All right, so I have a payments table. Let me just show you guys that first. So over here we have a pretty simple table. It's got a few different columns: payment ID, order ID, payment date, amount, and payment method. Right, so this table here is just the history of payments for this business, right? So each record here is each row here is a separate payment made to the business, okay? And then we have the payment method, which tells us whether it's done by credit card or PayPal or cash, and then we have the amounts, the dates, and that's the kind of information that we're dealing with right now. So I want to find out what is the total amount of payments done in this business, which means I want to add up all these rows together, and there's about 104 rows in this table. So I want this all added up to give me the total amount of payments done by this business over its entire lifetime. For me to do this, I can use the sum function, right? And I want to take the sum of the amount column, because the sum function is used to add up all the values in a column. So I'm going to do select sum amount from payments. If I run this now, I get a total value of 14,434. Now I can give an alias to the sum amount, which is select sum amount as, let's say, total payments. All right, you can give some kind of name, and there we go. So that's an aggregate function in action. It, as I said, performs a calculation on a set of values and returns a single value. So in this case, we applied the aggregate function on the amount column, and then on all those values, we get returned a single value, which is this over here. Right, now task 2. Find the total amount of payments per payment method. Right, so let's go back to our table and just have a quick look again. Okay, so now here's the payments table over here. Now, we want to find the total amount of payments, so total amount of payments per payment method. Okay, so it seems like I'm only interested in two columns here. So that's the amount and the payment method column. So just these two, I'm just going to select that just to simplify things for me. Okay, so what it's asking me to do is I want to find for each payment method type, I want to find the total amount that this business has done for that payment method. Okay, so basically the table that I want back is having one row per type of payment method. So that'd be one row for credit card, row for PayPal, cash, crypto, and bank transfer. And I believe that's the only unique values of payment method in this column. So there's 5 values, right? 5 unique values. Okay, and I want those things grouped up. And then once these values are grouped up, I want the rows over here for amount to be added up together. So all the rows for credit card, I want them added up in the amount column. So that's what I'm looking for, right? So first thing I know is I want to use the sum function on the amount column. Right. Now I got select sum amount and payment method. If I were to run this query, it'll come up with an error message that says payment method column is invalid in the select list because it is not containing either aggregate function or the group by clause. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because we know the select sum amount over here returns a single value, right? Just as we saw earlier over here, returns a single value. And we know if I select just payment method without the sum amount, I'm going to get all these values returned to me. So for me to say, look, I want the sum amount with a payment method, it doesn't really work out, right? Because only one value from there, and we get 104 rows from payment method. So it doesn't really match up. So then what should I do? So as the error message suggested, the payment method column is invalid because it's not in an aggregate function or it's not in a group by clause. And as we know, if I want to find out, let me just get that again, hold on. If I want to find out what all these payments are for each payment method, the total sum of amounts in each payment method, if I want to find that out, I'll have to group by the payment method column. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use group by payment method. If I run this, there we go. I got a column over here that has the total amounts for each payment method in the payment method column, right? I can also again give another meaningful column name over here, total payments per method. And I run that. There we go. Cool. So now I hope that makes sense with how group by, works and how we use it and why we always say we use group by with, generally speaking, aggregate functions. And also I hope it makes you understand why we always say we use group by with aggregate functions. They tend to go hand in hand. And so reasons like this, right? Now, task 3, find the total amount of payments per payment method in each year. Okay, so again, we're looking at the payments table. And this is something I always do when I try to answer questions or try to write a query. I try to figure out what columns I really need first before I start writing anything else. It helps me simplify the query in my head. So find the total amount of payments per payment method, so same as earlier, in each year. Okay, so I know I need the amount column, right? I'm going to need the payment method column as earlier. And I'm also going to need, now, if I'm going to find out find the total amount of payments per payment method in each year, I'm going to have to get the payment date as well, right? Because that holds the year value. So now if I run this is what I'm working with. Amounts, payment method, and payment date. Okay, so I'm trying to find the total amount of payments, per payment method in each year. Okay, so essentially at the end of this, I need to get a payment method, calculate a total sum of per payment method for every year the payment method has occurred in, right? Now, how do I start this? Well, I know that I need to find the total amount. So I want to find the sum of the amount column, and I'm gonna give it another name as, we'll just say total amount, okay? I know I want to do that because that's what I'm looking for a calculation. So that's what I apply my aggregation on, right? Now, I know I'm going to have to use a group by because I want to group by per payment method in each year. So what would that mean? So if I know I need to do it by per method, right? And I also want to find out it in each year. So won't that mean I just have to put payment date as well? Well, yeah, it would, because I want to group by payment date. But now you might be thinking, but this looks a bit funny over here because we have dates, we have years with months and days and times. So I'll simplify this a bit further. And instead of having just payment date there, I'll use the year function. And let me just run this first bit. So select and from statement without the sum. Okay, so now total amount, which I haven't actually done let me just remove that for now because I actually haven't done the calculation. So amount column, payment method column, and then we'll give this a name as well. We'll call that year. Okay, so I run this. Now we have the amount column, the payment method column, and the year when that payment method or when the payment was done in, right? So now I want to group these results, as in like I want to find values, like for example over here we have credit card and credit card in 2024. I want these to be added up, for example, right? So that's what I'm looking for. So for me to do that now, I use sum function on the amount column, and I say as total amount, and then I do a group by on the payment method and the payment date, which in this case will be just the year. So I want to do it this way, right? So I'm grouping by the payment methods and the year. If I run this, now you'll see that I have bank transfer, cash, credit card, crypto, PayPal, which is the 5 unique payment methods I have for 2018. And this is the total amount for each payment method and that payment method's year. And again, it continues for the next one, 2019. Well, you'll notice that 2019 only has 4 rows, not 5 rows as earlier, because it seems like in 2019, we had no payments done by bank transfer. We got none done by bank transfer, which is interesting to see. 2019, we also have 4 records. We're again missing something. I think we're missing PayPal, right? So you can see now how when we group by multiple columns, we're able to find some interesting information. So that's how group by works, and that's how group by works with multiple columns as well in the group by clause. I hope that helps. If you guys enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe if you can. And I'll see you guys in the next video.